salamat. Thank you. Good morning and salamat po kang Kaloy Manlupig, our Balay Mindanao guru, and pasalamat ko sa partnership that I have developed with Balay Mindanao dating back to 1998 in my first term as congressman of the 1st District. Since then, that partnership has grown. And then now as mayor of Cagayan de Oro and chairman of the Regional Peace and Order Council, Balay Mindanao is still very much a key participant in our agenda, especially sa pag-open up sa Calabugao Plains, no? That hopefully kanang Calabugao Plains would open the road from Cabanglasan in Bukidnon all the way to Malaybalay, all the way to Pasugong, Sumilao, and then Malitbog, crossing Malitbog, and then eventually to Eureka, city of Hingoog. And hopefully we can open up a new door in Hingoog City that would lead to Bukidnon, and that would certainly improve the connectivity of Mindanao. Salamat kayo. Salamat kayo. Now, I asked my staff to do some research work, and I have some materials, but you know, when Mags told me to share the experiences, no, I just thought perhaps we can proceed with the slides that have been prepared, and then I'll go directly to the point. So let's proceed. Let's begin with the first slide. Of course, this was taken from research work. Global warming exceeding 1.5% Celsius poses many natural and human systems beyond limits of adaptation. Now, a report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that the UN has created for assessing science of climate change. And next slide, please, if we can proceed. Of course, cities consume 78% of the world's energy and produce more than 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And yet, cities account for less than 2% of the Earth's surface. And of course, cities are growing. In Mindanao alone, Davao and Cagayan de Oro City, the migration rates have exceeded previous records, no? And in fact, that is creating some pressure on us. And alipay ko that we are pushing for this metropolitan Cagayan de Oro, which is partly to respond to the migration. And I understand Davao also has it. The idea is to expand Cagayan de Oro to include many other municipalities, not just of Misamis Oriental, but also of Bukidnon, particularly those that immediately adjoin Cagayan de Oro. Hopefully, eventually, Maluing Ginoo, with the Pangil Bay Bridge completed, now we can have the northern corridor here in the upper half of Mindanao. Sugod sa Osami City, Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, Hingoog, and then all Bisangani sa Butuan, and hopefully all the way to Surigao. On the other side, the western front, that can also extend to Zamboanga City. The northern corridor, the gateway to Mindanao from the north. Of course, next slide, please. Mandates, of course, the formulation of the local climate change action plan, reduce greenhouse gas emission, etc., no? And increase the community's resilience to the impacts of climate change adaptation actions. Next slide, please. Now, our target is 75% reduction by 2030 under our commitment to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Next slide, please. Of course, the city's role is to appropriate climate change adaptation actions and mitigation measures are very crucial in sustaining growth and achievements of development goals aligned with the country's targets for SDG, the Sendai framework, and the new urban agenda. Next slide, please. Our City Climate Change Action Plan, Science-Based Climate Disaster Risk Assessment, or CIDRA. We have done this in collaboration with UN Habitat and the Greenhouse Gas Inventory, and we're doing this in collaboration with the USAID. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of the projects, and we're doing this in collaboration with UN Habitat. We call it the Project Lunao. This will, because because of Sindong, both sides of Cagayan River are now the subject of this flood risk mitigation program between the national government and JICA, and there's an embankment being built all the way from the mouth of Cagayan River, Bonbon to the west, and Barangay Macabalan to the east, and all the way to Balulang in the western side and Bakasandig in the eastern side, 12 kilometers each side of Cagayan River. There are only 2-3 projects remaining, and hopefully the embankment will be completed by the year 2022 or at the latest 2023. This is to enhance the climate, the embankment project, and we call it the Project Lunao. We'll make this as a walking area, a boulevard along that will end where the centerpiece is the back of amphitheater, which we are now rebuilding thanks to Senator Coco Pimentel's help. Next slide, please. This one is a very, very important project that we have done, the closure of the dump site. And it's now being converted into an eco park. And we have now a sanitary landfill in Barangay Pagalungan, and it's doing well. And in the meantime, the open dump site that we used to have in Barangay Carmen, the biggest barangay of the city, is now being converted into an eco park. Hopefully, this will be completed by early next year. Next slide, please. Of course, other projects, integration of the SALT program, effective implementation. This one is a solid waste management, septage and sewerage management as well, in partnership with DPWH and Cagayan de Oro Water District. Of course, the implementation of the Transport Master Plan, Energy Efficiency and Conservation Program, Air Quality Management Program, and improved land use. Talking about climate change, we are also a pilot city of the National Resilience Project. Now, this is a collaborative undertaking between the private sector led by the SM Group and the national government led by the Secretary of the National Defense. And Cagayan de Oro is one of the pilot cities of this program. And in fact, we were the first city to have been adopted by a major private group, SM particularly. And talking about environment, of course, we have always believed that Mindanao is typhoon-free until 2011. When Sindong hit Cagayan de Oro and the city of Iligan, and that changed actually the entire situation of Mindanao, followed by Pablo 1 or 2 years later, and then many other typhoons. No? And Sindong has taught us many lessons. So ang battle cry namo sa Cagayan de Oro is never again to Sindong. No? So we have done many programs. First, foremost, we have established a department or city disaster risk reduction. The first thing that I did when I became mayor in 2013 was to establish our city disaster risk reduction management group. That is now a department. And I would like to thank Colonel Monsanto, Mario Werner Monsanto, who was the architect of your 911 in Davao, no? You know, when I was governor, I attended a conference organized by AIM, and we were in Davao. We listened to Colonel Monsanto lecture about 911 in Davao. At the end of his lecture, he approached me and said, because I was governor then, he said, if you become mayor of Cagayan de Oro, you take me, please. I am from Cagayan de Oro, and I want to help Cagayan de Oro as well. Of course, that was 2000, I think 11, no, after Sindong. Anyway, first thing that I did when I won the election in 2013 was to call him and to tell him that I am now the mayor of Cagayan de Oro. He joined me on day one. And now our city disaster risk reduction team is a big group, and in fact elevating the city to even win the most resilient, highly urbanized city level a few years back. No? So, of course, sa atong environment, salamat po sa support sa national government, DOST, Pag-asa, and many other organizations, USAID, JICA, and we have many programs. Our resettlement programs had been upgraded, in fact, and that won for us our first Galing Pook Award some time ago, and the title of that program was Rising from the Mud, the story of Cagayan de Oro. And then the second program that won for us the Galing Pook was entitled No More, No Vote, I-Vote No More. No Vote, I-Vote No More. No? I was referring to this project that instead of benefiting the people had actually hostage them. So now on COVID, I have some slides to show on how does the situation look like here in Cagayan de Oro. This was as of yesterday, October 20. This was because I have been conducting this daily press briefing since March 13 of last year, except only Sundays. And I would report on what's happening in the entire region, in the entire city, and even in regard to Mindanao. And this is sort of a summary of the COVID situation. 19,982, and then admitted 307. What this shows, what I'd like to point out here is, of course, minimum public health standards are very important. Vaccination is very important. But there is also one other thing that we can do, particularly the government, which is to manage the situation. How can we handle the situation? Not to panic, no, but to remind the people, to get the people to cooperate and understand the nuances, the dynamics, no. And our next slide shows the next slide, please. Mone ang situation sa as of October 18 sa mga highly urbanized cities, no. The level of COVID positive cases cumulative, no? Cumulative. And Lipay ko kay Cagayan de Oro is one of the lowest among all these cities, no? And in spite of the fact na Cagayan de Oro is quite congested. And then the next slide would also show katong sa top 10 sa highly urbanized cities last year, no? Among the top 10 of the highly urbanized cities, Cagayan de Oro has the lowest number of cumulative positive cases, no, at 19,982. As of yesterday, that number has increased to a little over 20,000, 20,003. And again, the message here is importante ma-handle na to, and the people cooperate and not only follow the minimum public health standards, but also get themselves vaccinated. One challenge that Cagayan de Oro has is we are the host of the main COVID referral hospital in not just in northern Mindanao but in the upper half of Mindanao, no? So sa atong arid din in northern Mindanao Medical Center, those from Cagayan de Oro constitute nasa hospital sa arid section where mechanical ventilators and ICU beds are being used. Cagayanons constitute less than 1/3 of the patients. Non-Cagayanons at least at 2/3 of those inside the arid. And yet, ang akong problema is, as far as the healthcare utilization rate, the entire burden is being carried by Cagayan de Oro. No? So, so I've been raising this issue in the hope that one, NMMC would allocate more ICU bed and mechanical ventilators, which they can, in order to improve our healthcare utilization rate, or if there could be some measures to somehow mitigate the fact that we have to carry the burden. Ako laging example, it's like bayanihan, no? We carry the house together. Ang problema is Cagayan de Oro has the heaviest part on its shoulder. Pero okay lang, we're happy that we're able to help not just the people of Cagayan de Oro, but also from the rest of the region and even outside of Region 10. So I think that's it. Salamat kayo sa Kusog Mindanaw for this honor and privilege to speak before you this morning. And of course, I was born in Mindanao. I grew up here. And like many of you, I also intend to retire and die here. Salamat and good morning, everyone.